guys, welcome back to my KX Corner. Just a recap on where we left off last week. We got all of our blocks completed, so we're ready to start working on the sashing and then building that quilt top. So we're going to get right into cutting those sashing pieces. I hadn't pre-cut those just yet. The pattern does call for width of fabric on this, and I'll explain more when we get there, but this sky fabric, that the background that I'm using is actually wide backing. It's 108 inch yards, or I'm sorry, 108 inch wide, and so we're going to use that to finish this up, so it'll actually be a little bit less cutting when it comes to doing that inner border on this pattern. So I will meet you over at the cutting mat. Okay, so hopefully you can see everything clearly. This is the backing that is the sky, the background that I'm using. And like I said, it is 108 inches wide. And so I didn't account for the sashing and the inner border when I purchased this fabric. I was just looking for something to go on those blocks, and probably coulda, shoulda bought a little bit more, but I think we are going to have plenty for what we're doing. I'm just not going to cut it exactly the way the pattern says to cut it. So we are going to need a total of 35 9 by 1.5 inch pieces. Those are going to go, I don't know if you can see that, but they're going to go just at the tip of the nose, between these planes, if you can see that. And then we're going to do, let's see, 7 9 by 4, and those are going to go on the top of the plane, so every other row kind of, it's offset a little bit, so that's where those are going to go. So that's what we're going to cut, and then we'll cut the inner border, which is just a 1.5 inch strip around the edge, which actually that 108 inch with the fabric will be fantastic. It'll be a few less cuts. So so the first thing I'm going to do is actually just cut these down to 9 inches, and so I know that I need the 7 9 by 4s, and then I need 35 9 by 1.5. I know I can get 3 1.5 in this piece, this 5 inch piece, so I'm going to cut 12 and then cut them, subcut them. So I'm going to need a total of 19 9 inch pieces from these. So I'm just going to start getting those cut. Okay, so I actually cut a couple extras. That's okay. So what I'm going to do now is, these are all 9 inch wide. I need 7 of them to then be 9 inches long, 4 inches wide. So I'm going to cut 7 of them down, and then I will be cutting the rest of them down to 1.5 inch strips. So, and then a little trick, I don't know if you happen to catch that I did this before, but I do put, I don't know if you can see, I do write on my mats, and so it just makes it a little bit faster to get the fabric lined up. It's a little bit, I guess, more peace of mind that I'm cutting it where I should be cutting it versus taking extra time to, I know you're supposed to, you know, measure twice, cut once, right? But that really kind of just gets my eye right on it. I know exactly where I need to line up, and I just use a Sharpie, and then I just use an alcohol wipe and it comes right off. So that's just a little tip that I have learned. So I'm going to go ahead and start cutting these down to 4 inches, 7 of these to 4 inches, and then the rest of them, like I said, will be 1.5 inches. So we'll get going on that. Okay, so we have all of the sashing cut, and then we have the inner border cut as well. And I gotta tell you, this makes me so happy. Of all the fabric that I purchased for this project, for the quilt top, for backing the background fabric, this is all I have left. So not a whole ton of leftover or wasted. I know it can be used, right? I'll find something to use it for, but not a ton left over. And then the Air Force fabric that I used just about every single last square inch of it. So that makes me happy that I don't have a bunch of wasted fabric. So the next thing that we're going to do is square up the quilt box. And I'm going to make sure that my point is centered. So these are 9-inch unfinished, 9 by 11 unfinished quilt blocks. So you're going to want to put your 4.5-inch mark, or however you want to do this, right there on that center line. So if I go to the 4.5 and I can trim off the side and the edge, I am going to find the center point on my grid and mark it so that I know exactly where that center piece should be, and so I can kind of line that up on these, and then I'm going to cut the right side and across the top, and then I'm going to flip it over, get right back to that center again, and up the right side and across the top. So I'm going to do these for each of the 42 blocks, and then we will start actually putting the sashing on, and then assembling the rows and getting that inner border on. So we are on the home stretch of this quilt top, guys. I'm so excited. So I am just going to plug along here and start trimming these up. Okay, so we got all of the sashing cut today, and we got the blocks squared up. I also got done the baby blanket that I was talking about in last week's video, so this is ready to go to my husband's coworker. They just had a baby boy. So I got that done. This is a self-binding baby blanket. It's super quick and easy to make. Typically 30 inches of one fabric and 40 inches of the other. Really, you just need to make sure that whatever you have, like depending on how wide you want that border, 10 inches more. So 30 by 30 and 40 by 40, or you could do, I accidentally cut one too short one time, and I think it was like 25 by 25 for the smaller, 35 by 35 for the larger. So, and then just binding it. So, yeah, that's done. Okay, so tomorrow we're going to work on laying out our quilt blocks. So I do have 2 different types of fabric that I used. They're very, very similar. So I'm going to try and lay everything out with the sashing, so we can kind of see how it all looks, and then I'll start sewing them together. And so if you follow the diagram, we're going to put like on half of the rows we'll put a sashing on the top, and then on the others we'll put it down below. And so so yeah, we'll get that all laid out tomorrow, and hopefully get that all stitched up tomorrow. So, but I am stopping for the night. I didn't get near as much done today as I wanted to, but that's okay because I took some time out in the middle of the day, and my daughter and I went to lunch, and then we did some thrifting, because that's kind of what I like to do with my girls. And so we did get a little thrifting done. We found some books, and I found a few little decor items. So anyway, but yeah, so I will be back tomorrow. Okay, Guys, I have the quilt blocks all laid out here, and as you can see, I said I have two different fabrics, and they're really hard to tell apart. So I did put a sticky note on the different fabric. I have 12 blocks of one fabric and then 30 of the others, so the sticky notes really kind of stand out. So what I'm doing now is I just kind of want to get a visual of it and make sure those sticky notes are kind of spread out. I suggest, even if you take a picture with your phone and just look at the picture on your phone, and you'll see things that just pop. So if you've got lots of different fabrics that you're working with, and lots of different colors, you might see, oh, you know what, I got too much blue over here, I need to throw a green one over there, or whatever it might be. Just looking at it through a picture just kind of gives you a better visual of it. So as you can see, I've kind of got my sticky notes all sporadic. Now I have it laid out exactly like the pattern. So I have a block, and then I have the 1.5 inch sashing, a block, and then all the way to the end, the last one is going to be a 4 inch piece of sashing. So every other row is going to start with a block and then a 4 inch piece of sashing. And then between your blocks is that 1.5 inch piece of sashing. So if your row started with a block, it ends with a 4 inch sashing. And then your next one starts with a 4 inch sashing and then into the blocks, and it ends with the block. So hopefully that makes sense. It's all in the pattern laid out, so just lay it out like the pattern. And then what I like to do is then stack the blocks the way that I'm going to sew them. And so in this particular pattern, because it is kind of offset, I won't be going, you know, side to side with the rows. I'm going to be going then top to bottom with the columns. And so I'm going to stack these columns up so that when I take them off the stack, that I'm just going to go one to the next piece until I have that column done. So that's what I'm going to stack up here now, and then I'll be able to take it back to the sewing machine and start putting it all together. So now that I've got this all stacked up, what I'm going to do is I'm going to put another sticky note on the top of each one of these stacks just so I know which column it is. So I will number them 1 through 7. And so then the next step would be to take these to the machine and just start stitching those columns together. And then once the columns are stitched together, I'll iron those seams open, and then I will stitch those columns to each other to make the whole main quilt top will be done. Then we will go into the inner border. So we will get started on that. Okay, so now we're going to cut the fabric for the outer border, and this is, I believe, 6-inch strips. Let's just double check. Yes, 6-inch strips across with the fabric. So the fabric that I picked for this, I went back and picked out some fabric for this outer border, and it is actually, it is also 108 inches wide, and it is basically an exact opposite of my inner border. So I thought that was kind of cool. So now I have like the daylight sky and then like a nighttime sky. So anyways, so that kind of worked out perfect. So 6-inch strips, but it's 108-inch wide fabric. So I won't need to do really any cutting and stitching together. The way that I typically do the borders is I measure up like the perimeter of the quilt top. So I'll figure up, you know, how much do I need to go down each side, and then across the top and bottom, but add the width of each side. So if I'm going to do a 6-inch border, then I need to add 12 inches to my top and my bottom. So I get a total perimeter, and then I just make one long strip that I know is going to be long enough to go all the way around the perimeter, versus I know they have some great instructions in here about measuring it, and measure it 3 different places vertically before cutting the borders. I just make sure I have enough border to go around. So down one side cut, down the other side cut, and then across the top and the bottom. And so I'm not measuring these at all, if that makes any sense. So that's just something that that I do. So so then I'm just going to need 6-inch strips of this fabric with the fabric. So I'm going to get these cut, and then we'll get these put onto the quilt top. Okay guys, look, our quilt top is done. Isn't this awesome? I'm so excited. So next step is I'm going to give it a really good iron, and then get it on the rails to quilt. So this is where we'll stop for this week, and we will get it quilted next week hopefully, and then binding, and then it's done. And so we are really kind of into crunch time for me to get this done before we leave for our trip. So I will leave it at that. I hope you have a blessed week, and we'll see you soon. Bye!